There's not many reasons to look forward to playing Liverpool these days as a West Ham fan, but I think catching up with Neil is one of my favourite things, to be honest with you. Anyway, your season's not going too shabby, is it?
It's not, no. I think the surprising thing is everyone else. Liverpool last season got 82 points, and I think there's a couple of games, I think West Ham away is one of them at the end of the season where they're not at it as they should be. So I think that even at 82 points, I think Liverpool were just a little bit better than that. You know, they have a mad 3-3 against Aston Villa late in the campaign. And I think this got forgotten by the end of the season. And I think there was a real sort of sense because of Jurgen moving on, we'd suddenly find ourselves in real trouble, that players had overperformed for Jurgen. And Klopp himself used to repeatedly say, I think I'm a very good coach, but I don't think I'm the only coach in the world. I don't even think I'm necessarily the best one. And he was, you know, even at the last day when he has the microphone and everyone thought it was just a bit of toffee or a bit of softness, he was saying, I'm leaving a really good group of players here. And I think the general gist was, yeah, but we'll really see with the next fella, certainly in the wider sort of media landscape. I'm not surprised with the points total where it currently is. I'm not of the view that was always going to be beyond this group. You know, we talk about players being another year older in the context of Van Dijk and Salah, but what's missed is that McAllister of Liverpool have got 5 starting midfielders, and McAllister's the oldest, and he's 26. He's just turned 26 on Christmas Eve. So Bosley's another year older. McAllister himself's another year older. Jones another year older. Gravenberch another year older, and Harvey Elliott, they're all another year older. And that's a good thing at the age that they're currently at. It's actually a good thing that Trent's another year older. It's a good thing that Bradley's another year older, Konate, you know. So with Robertson and with Van Dijk and Salah, you know, you're always wanting to turn the clock back a little bit, and Alisson as well to an extent. But even someone like Cody Gakpo, he's in his prime years. He's moving into his prime years. So that this Liverpool side has managed to improve a little bit doesn't surprise me. And improving a little bit from 82 points puts you on course where they currently are for 93. What I am surprised about is Arsenal have not gone, you know, still not going at that much better than 2 points per game pace. Obviously, City's enormous drop-off is a surprise to everyone, but in hindsight, you can at least see bits of it on the cards. But the truth of it is, everyone thought City would be closer. So what I thought is that Liverpool, by this stage of the season, in all honesty, in the summer, I thought Liverpool would be part of a 3-horse race for the title, bobbing around at about sort of 40 points from 16, 17 games. And that's where they are. The truth of it is, though, is that the gap is what's the most exciting thing, and that's the best thing at the minute, and that's what the pressure of Sunday is that on Sunday we play before everyone else. So if Liverpool can go to West Ham and win, it just means that there's the hardest thing, having been in these title races up against City, is when the side that's out in front plays first, wins, which means that you've got to do your job just to sustain how far behind you are. And I think that's what Liverpool have given themselves the opportunity for now, if they do it on Sunday and into the second half of the season, and that's pretty exciting.
When we caught up before the Carabao Cup game, I remember you saying to me, if we're in a title race by April time, we've had a good season.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens in the last month. So you were quite optimistic about being in a title race, and that was at the start of the season. Are you now confident that you can go on and win the title? Because there is a gap there, and you've got a game in hand too. And as a neutral, I'm looking at it, and I've watched you quite a lot this season. And you've just got, your side's got everything that you want in a football team. You've got it, I think. And it's hard, as a neutral, it's hard to see you not going on to win the Premier League title, to be honest with you. But as a Liverpool fan, are you a bit cautious and humble, or are you starting to get a little bit of confidence about you?
I'd argue it's not humility to sort of argue with the evidence of your own eyes. You know, at the minute, I think Liverpool are rightly marked favourites for the title. And I think the big thing to say now is, I think what has changed since we spoke before the League Cup game is that the sense has moved from the idea that Liverpool can be in a title race in April to A, Liverpool will be in a title race in April, but also B, Liverpool are the team that's going to decide where the finish line is. So if the finish line's 82 points, then Arsenal and Chelsea can still win the league. If the finish line's 98 points, then I think mathematically speaking, I don't think Chelsea actually can now. And I think that Arsenal are really close to that. So where it finishes between those poles is the key question. And Liverpool decide that. And that's the enormous thing that's shifted. And I think that's what Liverpool have got to hold on to more than anything else. So this is now a league title. That I wrote it yesterday after the game against Leicester, and you can say it's just Leicester, but it was using that as an example. Liverpool's next 4 away games, I think, will decide the extent to which they can continue to draw that line. So Liverpool's next 4 away games are against the West Ham side that have got good attacking players. They're against a Nottingham Forest side that currently sit third. Then they've got to go to Brentford, who've got a really good home record. And then they go to Bournemouth, who play some of the most exciting football in the country. And they're Liverpool's next 4 away games. And I've talked all those sides up, but the flip side of that is this. Liverpool will kick all 4 of those games off as favourites. All 4 of those games off as favourites. The bookmakers, for the individual match, when it comes around, unless something mad happens between now and Bournemouth away, an injury crisis or something, Liverpool will kick them off as favourites. And if Liverpool take 10 or 12 points from those games, it just becomes increasingly difficult to see how anyone is able to continue to live with the pace that Liverpool are going at. So, I think that this is the sort of the point now of the season where you can look at Arsenal and genuinely the most Arsenal can get. I've just sort of done the maths now, looking at it in my head. The most Arsenal can now get between now and the end of the season is 63 points at the time of recording. This is prior to them playing against Ipswich, and that is 96. Liverpool are well in excess of that. So the question just becomes, how close to that barrier can we push? And that's not going to be easy because I've just talked up these other sides. But yeah, I think it would be mad for me to sit here and say, yeah, it's just a good. Well, it would be a good season. I think I will always stand by that. If Liverpool are in the Champions League last 8 and are 6 clear come April, it will still be a good season. But if Liverpool are 6 clear come April and then they don't go on and win the league, then we'll all be going, oh God, where did it go wrong? So I think that this is the main thing really now. Liverpool have just got to stretch the legs, and I think if they do that, Arsenal are the main threat. I think Chelsea, everyone just sort of got to see how Chelsea's race becomes run a little bit in the last couple of games. That there's, I think that there's a real sort of sense that if you keep Palmer quiet, and Fulham, he scores against Fulham, but second half to keep Palmer really, really quiet. But if you keep Palmer quiet, there's just a little bit of vagary around the rest of this Chelsea setup and exactly how it all interacts, because Palmer's the glue that makes it work in an attacking sense. I think Arsenal are sort of the main threat, and I think they're having a difficult season, but I think they remain the main threat to Liverpool. But if Liverpool extend this gap between now and the end of January, then you are just sort of saying, well, if you're Arsenal, you're going to run out of games. We've not played eight of the bottom 10 at home yet. And that's why these away games matter. We've still got 8 games against the teams that currently sit in the bottom half of the table at Anfield. So if we tick off these difficult away games that are coming up, on top of where we've already gone and got results, and do what you'd then expect this Liverpool team to be able to do at Anfield, then the maths just bends in our favour. So I'm not going to say, as I say, I'm not going to sort of be coy and go, well, it's going to be difficult and all of that, just to sort of come over it like there's humility in this Liverpool team. I think we know what the challenge is when we go to grounds like West Ham's and when we go to grounds like Brentford. We know what the challenge is. We know that everyone's got good players. So I think there's humility game by game. But ultimately, right now, Liverpool are marked favourites for the league title for a reason.
Yeah, I'd be surprised you didn't go on and win it, because I know you're quite good with your facts and figures. You'll probably tell me, there was a couple of seasons ago that Liverpool did have a certain lead over Man City in the Premier League title at this stage, blah, blah, blah. But I can't recall there being that much of a gap between someone that isn't Man City and the rest of the Premier League. But also, when there has been points, there has been a gap, you've always had the feeling that City will catch you. Like New Year, City just hit form and they just go at like a train. But that vibe around Man City is completely gone this season. And when you were speaking about your threats there, you didn't really speak about Man City. You spoke about Arsenal and Chelsea a little bit. Understandably, I agree with you. And I think that's why I fully expect you to go on and win the title, because you've got a healthy lead at present. And I didn't even know you had 8 of the 10 bottom half teams to come at Anfield as well. So I fully expect you to go on and win this. You've got a good lead there. Your team's purring at the minute. I see no reason why you won't win the title.
No, and just little things like, for Arsenal, let's say Arsenal do brilliantly from this point, and they have a really good second half of the season last season, Arsenal, and they've got the kindest remaining games, Arsenal, because they've had a difficult start. But just to make that point, it's still really hard from this position, Arsenal, to break 90. So for Liverpool to break 90 now, they've got 21 games left, and they 48 of them, they need 48 points to get to 90. Arsenal, from this point, they've also got 28 games left, but they need 57 points to get to 90. And when you 21 games left. So if you go at that, Arsenal have got to go at a rate points per game of 2.7. It's such little room for manoeuvre to get to 90 points. Liverpool have got to go at 2.25 around that sort of mark. And Arsenal have never broken 90 points under Arteta, or full stop. The Invincibles team gets 90 on the nose. And that's the Invincibles team, A, it's a remarkable achievement, and B, 90 points is just absolutely ridiculous. But Liverpool, and this is, I think, one of the missed beats from, again, going back to both the punditry class over the summer, but also I think some of the online noise from other supporters. The back five that Liverpool picked for the game that they just played against Leicester have all won the league, and they've all put in 90-plus seasons 3 times. So Alisson, Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson, and Trent Alexander-Arnold have been part of Liverpool teams that have posted 92, 97, and 99-point totals. This is not uncharted territory for these footballers. It's not uncharted territory for Mo Salah either. And, whilst they are younger players and they didn't play an integral role in some of those years, Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones have been around that level where you need to be. Alexis McAllister has won the World Cup. We can view these players, I think, at times, or you can go, well, it's a different Liverpool side because of the manager. Well, the manager's posted really high points per games totals as manager of Feyenoord and as AZ Alkmaar manager as well. He's gone through bits of that. And even last season, when they don't win the league, Feyenoord, they go with a better points per game than the season when they did. So the manager knows what this is as well. He knows what this is to go game by game and get through it. But Liverpool's back five, quite literally Liverpool's back five, have put that together. When Konate comes back into that back five, he was part of the 92-point season where the team also got to the Champions League final. These are experienced footballers at the elite end of football as to what this job is. They understand it. And those players who are currently the oldest, who are the most experienced, are also currently playing some of the best football of their career. Van Dijk has been exemplary since he's become Liverpool captain. He genuinely has. Why things go wrong last season has nothing to do with Van Dijk. But this season, it looks like he's gone up another level again. Salah is playing some of the best football we've ever seen him play. And both feel really comfortable in their skin, really comfortable with the leadership role that they've got. Obviously, Van Dijk is captain, but Salah is now one of Liverpool's senior professionals. And it wouldn't surprise me if Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't sign a contract, if Salah ends up Liverpool's vice-captain going into next season, if Salah and Van Dijk do. Because that's the sort of the what's the word I'm looking for, really, the aura that Salah has. But that aura now is not just the idea of a mystically brilliant footballer. It's someone who's actively engaged and leading this team on and off the pitch from everything that you see, from everything that everyone says. So, they're in a good moment. And I think none of this, again, is to be complacent. None of this is to act like it's already won. It's not. But they know that because they've done this job. They've both won one, but also they know what it is to go the other side of 90 points. And I think that this is the key thing, really, that I think, again, just sort of got overlooked in amongst all the noise over the summer about Klopp, was the footballers themselves have got this experience. And at the minute, they look like the most mature team in the country, even though, I said before, a great number of them are still under 26.
Yeah. A bit of fun, Neil, quickly, before we talk about the contracts. Premier League, I think you're going to say, yes, you're going to win that, right? But you're still in the Carabao Cup. I'm not going to lie, rooting for you in the semi-final against Spurs. I'm hoping you beat them. You obviously got the FA Cup, you got the Champions League. As a neutral, I'd be surprised you only end up with one trophy in May. I can't see anyone stopping you, even in European football. What are you hoping for? What's your prediction?
No, just be really clear. Hoping for, honestly, you just offer that league title. It's worth saying, in 2020, we couldn't celebrate it because of the pandemic, so we'd won it.
Yeah.
We were 25 points clear at the point the pandemic took football away, but we never got the open top bus parade. But much more than that, the way the city operates globally, and then sort of on a European level, especially with the Irish contingent and the Norwegian contingent that support Liverpool nationally, because Liverpool supported across the country, and then also locally, that idea of not just a bus parade, but the days that go on around that, the weeks that would lead to, we never got them. We genuinely never got them. It was a fully socially distanced period, and there was one sort of big night around Anfield where people, stayed outside but pushed those rules aside. But you never even at the moment where the bars of Liverpool were full because of this, and that'll do. Now, that's not to say they can't win other things. I agree with you. If I'm Newcastle or Arsenal, I really could not be bothered with Liverpool in the final of the Carabao Cup. I'd be, even if I was supporting Arsenal, I would be rooting for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Because the idea that this Liverpool side that's won 2 of the last 3 Carabao Cups rocks up at Wembley to face you. I just think, whereas Tottenham would turn up and they'd be a mess. It'd be some sort of mad emotional thing where one or two of them might have a breakdown on the pitch as the game wears on, or the manager might start staring at his shoes on the sidelines. Whereas Liverpool will turn up, and I'm not saying they would definitely win the game, but they'd strut into Wembley like, well, we know what this is, we're fine here, let's go. So I think that is obviously quite nicely placed for us. I think Europe, no one's quite sure how all this shakes out the other side with this league. I think Liverpool will finish top of it. But what that ends up meaning, that when you get drawn against who, because they're trying to sort of seed it as it goes, but there's a chance that Real Madrid could come 24th in this league, which will mean that they could well be destined to get a last 16 game against Liverpool, at which point you could be going to the Bernabeu first leg and you could get a man sent off, and it's a cup competition at the end of the day, and there's good sides left in it. I think this first Champions League, and I don't class Liverpool in amongst this, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's got a bit of a rogue winner. It wouldn't surprise me because no one's quite sure how it's all going to shake out. If from nowhere an Atalanta or a Leverkusen suddenly found themselves in a final, and no one's quite sure how, because the thing didn't play out the way everyone anticipated, and suddenly they've got quite a kind draw, and it doesn't quite make a ton of sense. But all of that said, right now, we're playing. I think we do look like the outstanding team in Europe. That's what that league table would suggest. We played all of our pot 1 and pot 2 teams as well. We played Madrid, we played Milan, we played. Everyone fucking beat Leipzig. Everyone's beaten Leipzig so far, which is ridiculous. 6, they played 6 and lost 6 Leipzig. So it doesn't feel like a big achievement, but they were our pot 1 team. But I think that it would be good if we could, give that a really big push. Obviously, it's an obvious thing to say, but honestly, you say to any Liverpool supporter, I'll give you a guarantee on the league and a coin toss on all 4. So you should win 2. We'd all say, we'll just take the league as a guarantee. Thank you very much. So that'll do me. The league would just suit me down to the ground.
You hinted at it perhaps about 5 minutes ago in regards to Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold and Salah's contract situations that you think you discussed hypothetically. Trent could leave, but the other 2 would remain. Is that what you're expecting to occur?
Yeah, on the balance, I think that looks for all the noises and different bits of sort of music that's gone around. I think that does feel as though it's the likeliest outcome. I think it's dead hard. I think the problem that Liverpool have got with Trent Alexander-Arnold's contract is that he's a remarkable footballer. For me, he is the best right back in the world. I think what he's capable of with the ball at his feet is so important for this Liverpool side. I don't think it's ever been anywhere near made enough use of at international level. Certainly given the number of willing runners the international team could actively have, who could run channels brilliantly. But I feel as though what's difficult is if ultimately Mo Salah earns as basic, and by the way, when I say basic, the figure is reputed to be about 350 grand a week, but a lot of what's reported is that once his bonuses have been placed in, he's closer to £1 million than he is to £500,000 Mo Salah. And Mo Salah earns that money. And Liverpool have got quite a tight wage structure, but they've also got they also pay a lot. So a lot of Liverpool's money goes on wages. We see it in the accounts every single year. A lot of it goes on wages for players. But Liverpool's structure is quite tight and it's quite democratic, and it works itself out massively around bonuses as well. So supposedly, to sort of go through the numbers, Salah's on circa 350 and Van Dijk's currently on circa 225 to 250. And Van Dijk's the second highest paid player at the club. Liverpool have pushed this, I think, so that Salah's an outlier. So when it comes to negotiating with other players, you don't discuss Salah's contract, you discuss Van Dijk's. So everyone else takes the pay from Van Dijk, and Salah is Salah. And everyone's sort of accepted that because he's Mo Salah and he's this good. I think what's difficult for Liverpool with this situation they've ended up in with Trent is Trent might want to be closer to Salah and more than Van Dijk, but really close to Salah. And what's really hard about that is it's really hard to, A, have 2 outliers, and also, B, have one of the outliers be the right back. And I don't mean to be disrespectful to any right backs who, enjoy the channel, Gio, but the truth of it is that the way football works, and it has always pretty much worked, is you pay the lads who stick the ball in the back of the net the most money. It's just literally it is the game. It has been the game. It's the way it operates. And I think that Liverpool don't want to get themselves in a situation where, for instance, Ibu Konate's got 1 more year left on his deal. And if Ibu Konate rocks up and says, don't worry about Salah, but I'll have 90% of what the right back's on. If there's a new striker that Liverpool want to buy in the summer who says, yeah, don't worry about Salah, but I'll have 85% of what the right back's on. It's much harder to keep your wage structure under control. And I think that's the problem here. So I think that Trent will get a really good, solid offer from Real Madrid. That'll be very, very generous, especially where signing on fee is concerned. And then he'll be subsumed into the way Real Madrid do business around basic and et cetera, and may well end up with more certainty. And also just in general with Real Madrid, they are the likeliest side to win La Liga every year, and they are one of the 4 or 5 likeliest sides to win the Champions League every single year. So your bonuses you can rely on them a little bit more. But also, I just sort of think that if you are Trent, and especially if this season does continue, as we discussed, there is a bit of an argument that you might just want to experience another way of life and a different type of football. I think it isn't just the idea of what the money is or isn't saying. I think it's we can talk a lot about the hometown club thing, and I think it's really good. But the thing with Gerrard and the thing with Carragher even was there was always that white whale. They'd not won the league playing for Liverpool. Trent's won everything. And if this season, let's just say Liverpool do a league and a European Cup double, and he chooses that moment to say, well, that's great, but I want to go and do Spanish football, it'd be difficult to begrudge him it. There'll be some people who will because we're so obsessed with transfers. There'll be people who don't like the idea that Liverpool haven't got a fee in. And I understand that, but my position will be a bit like, yeah, but come on, look at everything that we won and everything we experienced together. I just think that is, I think on Liverpool's side, that's why there might be a reticence to go to a certain salary-based level. I think Liverpool fan, I heard someone told me a great story recently, someone who's really well versed in Italian football, that when things were exploding for AC Milan and Paolo Maldini was massive, he had the way he wrote his contract and he insisted on it, was that he'd always be the second highest paid player at the club. So whenever AC Milan bought a new player, who was a new superstar, who became the highest paid player at the club, Maldini got a wage increase because he'd match whoever the previous highest paid player was. He would always have to be the second highest paid player at the club. And that sort of feels as though that suits Liverpool, but it also suits Van Dijk. So Van Dijk is in a position that he's the captain. No one else earns more than me. Because again, like in every workplace, one of the things I think it's always fair to say about most workplaces is that people, whilst they might care a little bit about what they're on, they very much care about what everyone else is on. And footballers use it to keep score. Roy Keane once said it. It wasn't the idea of what it was they were offering me. It was what it was they were offering everyone else, and then what they weren't offering me when he was at Manchester United. And I think footballers know this stuff and they care about this stuff. So I think if you're Van Dijk and then everyone else, you're able to say, well, he's a legendary centre-back. He's the club captain. And then you say to Konate, right, you're not on 80% of Salah or 80% of a hypothetical Trent wage, but you're on 80% of what Virgil van Dijk's on. And Konate says, well, that's great. He's the club captain. He's centre-back like me. He's a brilliant player. At some point, he retires, and then hopefully I step up and I get the big bucks. Yeah, absolutely, mate. That's the way it works. So I think that's going to be that's why this has become difficult for Liverpool. And that's why I think how it ends up is that Trent does move on, but the other two do stay.
Very well explained. Thank you. I caught your podcast during the week when you were explaining all this, so I stole a bit for the preview, but I did credit you in the preview. No, I stole it. I like it. It was you taught me. I was learning, so thank you very much. It was very well explained, though. Hopefully, it makes sense to people at home. Anyway, from your team to my team, quickly, Neil. What do you make of West Ham?
I don't like him. I'll be dead honest. I feel like West Ham, and I thought there was a flash of it when Moyes was manager, and it's quite counterintuitive. Like it shouldn't have happened under David Moyes because a lot of the way he's perceived. But there was just a couple of points under David Moyes where I felt like West Ham were in loads of ways the most fun team in the country. But the players looked like they were having a ball. Supporters looked like they were really getting into it. The way the club as a whole treated European football, I thought was impressive and worthy of massive respect, to be honest with you. And it just feels as though they've ended up making a remarkably safe managerial choice in a season where they didn't need to play safe. And that's not if this was Premier League circa 5 years ago and you felt that the 3 teams that come up could all definitely stay up and definitely compete, then there'd be an argument for a safe pair of hands managerial shout. And that's what I think he is. He's a safe pair of hands managerial shout. And I've got no shadow of a doubt that West Ham will end up at worst 14th. But that's sort of my point, which is that they could, within reason, have got any manager in and at worst 14th because of the nature of the 6 sides beneath them. Maybe Palace or Wolves might shock to go on a bit of a run towards the end of the season, but ultimately, West Ham is so much better than Leicester, Ipswich and Southampton that I don't quite understand why the choice with that big ground and that set of supporters who love, the old cliche, but it's true, who love good football. I think there's a thing about London football, which is that everyone wants to play the best stuff, even if it means that you don't win the league at the end of the season. It's one of the things that makes Arsenal a bit of an outlier. Everyone wants to feel, and Chelsea post Mourinho sort of moved in that direction. But I think the London sides as a whole, they want to feel like they're the ones who are the most entertaining in London. They're the ones who give the players the best basis, and I think that's a cultural thing that effectively comes from the so many London clubs, and I think West Ham are part of that. And it's odd to me to have gone in a direction at a moment when you could have, as I say, within reason, done anything to do something so safe. And I think it's a real shame. None of that's to say, as I say, he should be driven out of town or anything like that at this point, because he now is the manager of the club, and there's a way West Ham like to behave towards their managers historically as well. It's worth pointing that out. West Ham have not had that many managers if you go down the years. But I think it's just a shame. I think you can, within reason, you can imagine any one of a ton of managers who are either currently in the Premier League or have been in the Premier League or who are interested on the continent who, could have taken the West Ham job. I actually feel now in hindsight for Amorim, it might even be a bit of a shame, because he's going to find things a long slog at Manchester United, and maybe the idea of taking over West Ham in a summer and building from there might have been better if everyone could have come together on that. But I just think it's a little bit of a shame, because there's so many players who are so good. But I also just think it's the smartest direction to travel for the club. The best thing and certainly given what they've got in Bowen, you look at the length of the contract that Bowen's on, the extent to which he loves the club. I don't think Bowen will ever play for another team at the level that he's at now. It might be that he goes somewhere when he's 35. But if you've already always going to have someone like Bowen leading the charge for you, well, back him up. But back him up with exciting footballers, and accept that what will happen is you'll bring them in, and if they succeed, they may well move on to a top European or top Premier League club who finish regularly in the Champions League places. But in the meantime, take a run at the Champions League places by playing, attacking, exciting football. And this season looks like a great example of it. I know Forest have done it differently, so it sort of belies a bit of this with Nuno. But, the idea of, for instance, a manager like, or quite literally Iriola, getting a grip of this West Ham squad and side when he's done what he's done with Bournemouth, imagine that. Imagine if you got that sort of manager. Right now, West Ham could be where Forest are. They could be sitting with 30, 33, 34 points in the table. Judicious acquisition, a good plan, and an approach that's front foot. And I say none of this is to say that the manager's dreadful or anything like that. He just sort of feels a little bit like yesterday's man, when he was never even that much yesterday's man. But he's not bad at what he does. It's just that in a universe where if West Ham, genuinely had someone who was maybe just a little devil may care, and who had the attitude of, what, our plan for the season is that after 19 games we'll have scored 40 goals, and we might have let 30 in. But they'd be better off on the table now, and the supporters would be enjoying it a lot more. And I think that, I think that's the shame really of it. And as I say, I look at the squad, there's good players everywhere, still utterly admire Kudus, think he's pure stardust. I understood why he got sent off being an idiot at Tottenham, because he played ever so well himself, and the game was just falling apart around him. And it's, he's still a youngish lad and he's a bit immature, but I can understand the frustration boiling up in him back then, because he can't believe sort of what he's surrounded by at that stage of the season. Bowen, excellent player. Fulkrug just feels like he's a ridiculous percentage choice that sort of suits this manager, whereas that could have gone somewhere else. The young lad, though, Gilmay, looks like, he could be a good player. Somerville, in the fullness of time, will be a good player. You can sort of go through and see where there's Soler looks to me like a tidy footballer. It's difficult now because the ship sailed, and I don't believe they'll make a change now, and I wouldn't even necessarily argue that they should. But it just seems a real shame that West Ham didn't decide to commit to the most exciting brand of football they could put their hands on this season, because I think it would have been really good for the short, medium, and long-term future of the club.
Amen. Completely agree with you, to be honest with you. But anyway, from your team and my team to Sunday, how do you see this game going on Sunday evening?
I'm struck by what the suspensions do and injuries do. I think from the outside looking in, suggests that the smart thing that West Ham can do is pick a really attacking team and get it to attack. Whether or not he'll do that is a little bit up in the air. But I think that you're almost like committing to almost something that's quite close to 4-2-4 might be no bad thing for West Ham, and accept it's going to be a little bit of a game of tennis, and that they may well come off second best, but you'll put a show on. I just don't think that that's what Lopetegui wants to do, and so he'll try to sort of force his players to do stuff that maybe doesn't feel entirely natural to them for this, with the options that he's got. And I think that that'll suit Liverpool, but also the other thing that'll suit Liverpool is the thing that the suspensions and the injuries and the existing injuries do is it means he won't have much of a bench. So I think Liverpool might try to strangle West Ham a little bit in the game, suffocate them, frustrate them, see if they can create something early. But even if they can't, almost have the attitude that if it's 0-0 on 60, Liverpool will have options that West Ham won't have. And so I think I do think we'll win the game. I think we've, for all the other talk about this team this season, I think they've been fortunate when they played some teams. And I think this is another one where I think we're going to ultimately have been a little bit fortunate. I think, by the way, this was the case for Arsenal for 2 seasons, so I'm not apologising for that. Sometimes you get lucky. Arsenal, it felt like they managed to be the only team that ever managed to play Man City when Rodri wasn't there. Whereas now we can see what the reality of that is. But I do think that Liverpool should win the game. I think Liverpool will win the game. I think there'll be a moment of irresistible class from Kudus or Bowen that will mean that West Ham have their say in the match. But I just think that in the fullness of the 90, I think Liverpool will probably just have a little bit too much. And I think the other thing about what goes on for that game against Southampton, I think it was one of those where from the outside looking in, you'll tell me, but it felt to me like a little bit like West Ham were trying to play within themselves because they know that the next game's coming. But that's dead hard to do when players are dropping like flies on the one hand and when it just remained relentlessly 0-0 on the other. It's the worst thing in football. You're playing this team thinking, we should beat these, we can play within ourselves. And they're like, lads, we can't. It's 0-0. And also the cavalry's not coming. There's no cavalry anymore because everyone's injured. And I think that weighed on them a little bit. So I think that in the end, West Ham ended up putting a bit more in against Southampton than they would have liked. The players who he might have wanted to rotate for fitness, he wasn't able to do that around because of the injury issue. And I just think that this game probably just I think that West Ham would probably be in better nick for this if this game was coming on the 30th or on the 1st. Liverpool are used to 2 games a week. We've been dealing with it all season in Europe. We're used to the idea that you're back up Wednesday, Sunday. We've had loads of it, or Thursday, Sunday. In this instance, and I just think that plays into Liverpool's favour as well. So Liverpool can make more rotational changes, better substitutions, will back their players anyway, full stop. But the one thing that West Ham have got will be a crowd that want to be entertained and a bunch of players who want to be able to say, whether it's for Liverpool or for themselves or for anyone else, we're as good as these. We can play really good football. And I think the best thing Lopetegui could do would be almost to send them out there with a little bit of an attitude of, it's all right if you lose this, boys, but go and show how good you are. And I think if they do that, then that's West Ham's best chance of winning. I just don't think he's ever going to be that manager.
No. Crystal ball time. What's your score prediction?
3-1 Liverpool.
3-1 Liverpool. There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And a big thank you to Neil from the Anfield Wrap. The link to Neil and Anfield Wrap social medias are in the description below. I'm going to go have a chin wag with him over on the Anfield Wrap as well. And I'll put the link in the description below so you can find it. But if you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, comment by clicking thumbs up, subscribe to Thomas Chat. I'll catch you in a bit.